this will not be as long as it looks. These are third-year doctoral students. They are going to be audiologists in 1 year. In 2 years. I was giving them the benefit. So we're actually going to talk to you about wellness and hearing healthcare today, sort of a range of topics. But everybody's only talking for 5 minutes, so you're not going to be here. We promise to get you out for dinner. So we're going to start with hearing conservation and sort of talking to you more about your hearing and hearing. Yeah, that right there. For you in the back.
I got to cover my hearing aids are in.
I like that. See?
You just got to turn them on.
Look, I turn you up.
See, already the favorite. So April, Michael, let's see. I know. Kelly, Eleni, Christina, Molly, Tiffany, and Larry will be doing the talk. I am not. I am just here to grade them.
Can we help you?
There's lots of clapping for that.
Alright guys, so again my name is Kelly. We're going to start off with a little bit of ear anatomy and how sound gets from a sound source to your brain. Okay? So this is your ear. The ear can be divided into 3 parts: the outer ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The outer ear consists of this part that you can see, this fleshy part here, and your ear canal. Typically some problems you can see with the ear canal, it can get blocked by wax, or if you put a bead in your ear like some kids like to do, or the outer part of your ear, things like bug bites, sunburn, lesions, that kind of thing is pretty common as well. So your middle ear consists of your eardrum and a chain of 3 tiny bones. The eardrum is just a few layers of skin. It's pretty thin. It's designed to move a little bit. The 3 little bones are in a chain, and they are actually the 3 smallest bones in your body. This is to scale. And these tiny bones are they're very tiny. They're fragile, so they're easily broken if you bump your head, or if loud noises, loud explosions, things like that can do some serious damage. Your inner ear consists of your hearing organ, which is this snail-shaped guy right here, and your auditory nerve, which connects your ear to your brain. The inner ear, which is your hearing organ, contains tiny little sensory cells, and these cells are what recognize that you're hearing a sound and send the signal to your brain saying, oh, we heard a sound. So in a healthy person, they look like this. They're nice orderly rows, pretty pattern almost, kind of. And sometimes with damage like certain medications, old age, genetics can definitely play a role in this, and noise. The cells can be damaged and die. So you can see most of them are gone here, and even the ones that are there, like this one and this one, they don't look so good. So all of these structures work together in one long process. So a sound starts way out here in the air, and your sound waves come in. They get funneled into your ear canal by your outer ear. Kind of looks like a funnel. That's how it acts too. The sound waves bump up against the eardrum, which moves that chain of tiny bones a little bit and sends the signal to those little sensory cells. Those sensory cells go off and send the electrical signal down your nerve up to your brain. And that's where your brain says, oh, I heard a sound, and it sounds like this, and it's in this rhythm, in this pattern, and all of that stuff is coded by the sensory cells and your nerve.
Okay, so now that we know what our ear is made up of, how our ear gets sound from the environment all the way up to our brain, now we can talk about how we can measure our hearing ability. So what we use to test our hearing is this machine. It's called an audiometer. So with this machine, we can present tones to our ears, and we can vary these tones both in pitch. We can make low pitches or high pitches, and we can also vary them by loudness. So we can present very soft sounds and very loud sounds. So we present them through these headphones, and the headphones can test each of our ears separately. So now that we tested our hearing, we need a way. After we test our hearing, we mark down what are called hearing thresholds. So thresholds are what we refer to as the lowest sound that we can hear. So when we look at this graph, up on the y-axis, up at the top of the graph, we have different pitches. So all the way to the left, we have our lowest pitches that we test, and as we move to the right, the pitches get higher. Then on the y-axis, up and down, we have loudness. So up at the very top of the audiogram are the softest sounds we present, and then as we move down the audiogram, sounds get louder. We also have different symbols for each ear that we test. So when we test our right ear and we get a hearing threshold, we mark that as a red circle. And then when we test our left ear, we mark that as a blue X. So now that we've graphed out our hearing, what makes hearing normal and what makes it a hearing loss? So there's a range of hearing, and when we look at the audiogram, there are different ranges on the audiogram. So up at the very top in this yellow section is the range that we consider normal hearing. So in this example, this person's left ear threshold at that pitch is in that normal range. So that means for that ear at that pitch, they have normal hearing. Any threshold below this yellow section is considered a hearing loss. So these hearing losses can range in severity anywhere from a mild loss to a profound loss. And as you move further down the audiogram, the worse the hearing loss gets. So for this person at that same pitch, their right ear has a mild hearing loss. Okay? So what does that mean for our everyday life? What we use to help you understand that is something that we call an audiogram of familiar sounds. So we took this audiogram and on it we plotted sounds that you hear every day. So at the very top, with really soft sounds, we have sounds like rustling leaves, birds chirping, things like that. Then as we move a little bit further down, in this yellow section right in the middle, that's where average conversational speech is. So we have all of our speech sounds. When people are talking, it's normally in this range. A little bit louder than that, we have sounds like the vacuum, crying, a piano, and then even further down, we have sounds that can be dangerously loud to us. And some of these might not be things that you think would be dangerously loud. Things like a lawnmower, a chainsaw, a motorcycle, and then even further down are even more damaging sounds, like firecrackers, bands, and police and ambulance sirens. So if you have a hearing threshold that's normal, considered normal hearing, like this left ear threshold, that means you can hear everything below that threshold on the audiogram. So for this person in their left ear, they can hear rustling leaves, birds chirping, conversational speech, and all those loud sounds. But if you have a hearing loss, and your threshold is all the way down here, like for this right ear, you can't hear anything above that threshold. So you're missing the birds chirping, the rustling leaves, and all of those speech sounds. So if you have a hearing loss and it's below that speech range, you can have a really hard time communicating.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what happens as we get older. So I hate to bring it up, but we all are going to get old, and there's nothing we can do about it. So everything's going to stop working as well as it used to. Your joints aren't going to work as well. Your eyes aren't going to see as well. And your ears aren't going to hear as well. So the reason that our ears kind of stop working as well as we get older is because, as Kelly pointed out, we start to lose the sensory cells in the inner ear. So just to kind of show you again what normal, healthy sensory cells will look like, and then what the damaged ones look like. So you can see there's a pretty big difference, and this damage cannot be reversed. So once you have the damage, it's permanent. So this is what happens as we get older. And just to remind you that these sensory cells line that snail-shaped organ in the inner ear. So as you get older, that's where the damage is occurring. So as you lose these sensory cells, it's happening very gradually. So this gradual age-related hearing loss is what we call presbycusis. And this is often happens so gradually that you don't even know that it's happening. So a lot of people are starting to develop hearing loss and they don't realize it.
Another important thing to point out is that this will happen in both of your ears because both ears are exposed to the same things over your lifetime. The same medications, the same genetic factors, and the same loud noises. And it will typically impact the high pitches first, just because of the way that the sensory cells are organized in your ear. So to kind of talk about this a little bit more, I will bring your attention back to that audiogram of familiar sounds. So the reason that these high pitches are very important is because those are the consonant sounds of speech, and consonants really give words meaning. So I've put in this box some examples, like the F sound, the S sound, the TH. Those are all really high pitched, and so if you have a high frequency, high pitched hearing loss, you'll miss some of those. And just to give you some examples, if someone says feet, that's an F sound, you might hear beat or something that's not what they said. And an example of the S sound, like if someone says boys with an S at the end, you might hear boy. And so this is going to cause you to need them to repeat themselves, or you just misunderstand what they said, and your conversation doesn't end up being what it should have because there's some miscommunication just because you heard some of the consonant sounds wrong. So just to kind of summarize, unfortunately, this kind of hearing loss that comes with age, we can't avoid. But the good news is that you can protect your ears from further damage that would be caused by loud sounds. And Larry and Tiffany are going to talk a little bit more about that kind of damage.
So now that we know a little bit about how age negatively affects your hearing, now we're going to talk about how noise can negatively affect your hearing. So there are three properties of sound. Sound has duration, or how long it is. It can last a second, a few minutes, or even a few hours. Sound has a pitch range, as we talked about before, low pitches to high pitches. So an example of that would be a low pitch would be a man's voice, and a high pitch would be birds chirping. Sound also has loudness, or how intense it is. So how loud is too loud? Well, we know that 85 decibels is the approximate point at which extended noise exposure can cause hearing damage. Sound is measured in decibels, and as you increase in loudness, the decibel amount increases also. So just for comparison, at about 60 decibels, that's where normal conversation lies. At about 100 decibels, that would be equivalent to a sporting event. And at about 120 decibels, that would be equivalent to a gunshot. So we also know that noise can negatively affect hearing, particularly in the 2,000 to 6,000 pitch range. That's where we see most of the noise damage. And we also know that a change in hearing following noise exposure typically occurs in that same region also, from 3,000 to 6,000 hertz. There are also different types of damaging noise. A steady state and a fluctuating noise, they're both continuous, but a steady state noise varies in loudness just a little bit. A fluctuating noise varies in loudness more. An intermittent sound goes back and forth between safe and harmful to hearing, whereas an impulse sound lasts for just a second, and that would be like a gunshot. Okay. So now that we know all that, how exactly is our hearing damaged? We know that sound travels from the outer ear to the middle ear to the inner ear. A loud sound, that intensity is kept all throughout the system. Once that reaches the sensory cells in the inner ear, they are physically damaged, they're compromised, and they can die. As a result, an incomplete, muffled sound is sent to the brain, and you perceive that as hearing loss.
There are three main types of noise-induced hearing loss, or hearing loss that you get because you were exposed to loud noise. There are noise-induced temporary threshold shift, noise-induced permanent threshold shift, and acoustic trauma. So when you're exposed to loud noise, those sensory cells that we've all been talking about swell up, and they give you a temporary threshold shift or a temporary hearing loss. This can occur minutes to hours after the initial exposure and can last anywhere between minutes to days. This obviously varies with the time that you're exposed to that loud noise, how intense or how loud that noise was, and what pitch that noise was that you were listening to. So if your temporary threshold shift or temporary hearing loss doesn't fully recover, you're left with what's called a noise-induced permanent threshold shift or a permanent hearing loss. So this is a real destruction or damaging of those sensory cells. And you can have a lot of small permanent threshold shifts that you maybe don't notice until they all combine together and you really have quite a bit of hearing loss due to noise. You can also have damage to those sensory cells from really loud noises. So here's another picture of those sensory cells. On the left, you can see the healthy sensory cells are organized well and in a row, and those damaged sensory cells really aren't organized at all, and that's what's giving you a distorted signal up to your brain. So the third kind of noise-induced hearing loss is called acoustic trauma, and that's when you're exposed to one-time, really loud noise. And that can give you hearing loss in a couple different ways. The first is that sensory cell damage that we've talked about this whole time. The second is, or another one rather, is eardrum bursting. So if you've ever heard of anyone that has a hole in their eardrum or anything like that, that can be caused by really loud noise. And those tiny 3 little bones that we talked about can be fractured, giving you another noise-induced hearing loss. So in 2011 to 2012, the Center for Disease Control completed a study where they looked at a bunch of hearing tests and a bunch of interviews and found that at least 10 million adults in the US under the age of 70 had some kind of symptoms of noise-induced hearing loss. So 10 million people is a lot of people, and that's probably because noise-induced hearing loss comes so gradually, so that you're not noticing every time you have a little bit of a hearing loss until it's impacting your communication. Also, there's a lot of loud noises in our environment, in our day-to-day, kind of those things that we don't think that maybe are damaging your noise, or damaging your hearing, like mowing the lawn, concerts, really loud music in your earbuds potentially, and then you also can't see hearing loss. So people are less inclined to treat hearing loss as soon as they notice it.
So if you can't see hearing loss, how do you know if you have a noise-induced hearing loss? Well, you typically wouldn't see it because it's a gradual process until a few years after the exposures. Some of the signs that you might notice as time goes on is repeatedly turning up the TV or the radio volume at home, difficulty following or understanding conversation, especially in background noise, or any annoying ringing in the ears, any tinnitus like that. Okay? And so this is another audiogram. This is a person who was exposed to noise. So we've got the left ear and the right ear, that's the X's and the O's. That shaded region is normal hearing. Everything below that is hearing loss. Okay? You see a notch at the 3,000 hertz at that pitch right there, which indicates that that person was probably exposed long-term to noise louder than 85 decibels. So once you lose your hearing, you don't get it back, but you can prevent hearing loss.
Okay, so for the next 5 minutes, my intention is to inform you on the benefits of hearing protection. I'll go back one. So, with extended exposure to loud noises 85 decibels or greater, may over time present a serious risk to our hearing. So, some of these noises you may be familiar with, such as construction equipment or my voice, which is why I'll try to keep this to a minimum so I don't damage your hearing. But this image on the right represents some of the common equipment found on a construction site that is louder than 85 decibels. Therefore, it is necessary to wear hearing protection when you're exposed to these loud noises 85 decibels or greater average over an 8-hour workday. Or if you're exposed to noises 115 decibels or greater, further protection is required. So there's 3 main ways we can reduce these loud noises. The first one is reducing it at the source. The second one is reducing it along the pathway the noise travels. And the third one is reducing it at the receiver, which in this case is you all. Today I'm going to specifically talk about hearing protection devices as the way we are going to reduce that loud noises. So hearing protection devices are generally selected based on the following. First, the level of noise exposure. Second, the noise reduction rating of the device. Third, the personal comfort. Fourth, the type of work. And fifth, the environmental conditions. So hearing protection works by reducing the level of sound that reaches our ear. All hearing protection devices have a noise reduction rating, or an NRR. So the NRR is an estimate of the ability of that device to reduce the level of noise. So if a device has a noise reduction rating of 20, it can potentially reduce the noise by 20 decibels. For example, this image right here represents a worker being exposed to loud noise which is greater than 85 decibels. So this is loud enough to potentially cause some damage to hearing. When that same worker wears hearing protection with a noise reduction rating of 20, it reduces the level to below 85 decibels, which is safe to be exposed to over 8 hours. There are 3 main types of hearing protection devices. The first one are headphones. This consists of a headband and 2 ear muffs, which fit snugly over both ears. The second one are earplugs or semi-insert bands. These consist of disposable or reusable earplugs that go into the ear canal. And the third one is molded hearing protection. This is where an impression is taken of the ear. This is fit specifically for that individual. These are generally devices that are fit for musicians and teachers, so we won't go too much into those. These are just some variety of different hearing protection devices, variety being the spice of life. So we have some earmuffs, some reusable earplugs, disposable earplugs, and some variations of molded hearing protection. So some of the pros and cons. More comfortable in long-term use. This is for earplugs. More comfortable in hot environments. Disposable earplugs are an option. High noise reduction if it's fit appropriately. And small and easy to carry. This is typically how small it is. So again, you can just fit this in your pocket. Some of the cons may irritate the ear canal. Hygiene problems if the reusable plugs are not cleaned regularly. More difficult to insert properly if you have dexterity issues or if you have gloves on. Noise reduction capabilities are highly dependent on proper use, so if not fit correctly, then the noise reduction capabilities are kind of null and void and easily misplaced. So the semi-insert bands, some pros, typically easier to insert, easily stored on the neck when not using. These are more appropriate for employees that are removing them multiple times a day, so you're walking in and out of noise sources, a little easier to remove. The cons, hygiene problems if not cleaned regularly, lower noise reduction capabilities than most hearing protection devices. So last but not least, headphones. Pros, not easily misplaced, they're a little bit bigger. Best for multiple use and removals per day. Protection is typically more reliable, they're a little easier to put on than the earplugs, and they may be worn with minor ear infections. So, some of the downfalls: bulky to store, less portable, more inconvenient to use with other protective equipment, maybe you have a helmet on, such as that, more uncomfortable in hot environments. So hearing protection devices only work if they're consistently and properly used. So therefore, it's important to know how these devices are inserted into the ear or put over the ears to maintain the most beneficial capabilities of reducing the noise. If you have any questions of which hearing protection device to use or how to insert it on, you can always schedule an appointment with a hearing healthcare provider. So, some common objectives to hearing protection devices. I don't need them, I'm used to the noise. So actually our ears cannot get accustomed to noise. This instead may be a sign of a hearing loss developing. Hearing protection is uncomfortable to wear. So there are a variety of hearing protection devices. If you find one is uncomfortable, we can always explore the different options. And also, hearing protection devices, if worn properly, should be comfortable over long-term use. Go Matt. I already have hearing loss, so why should I wear them? So it's important to prevent further deterioration or damage to your hearing. That's why it's important to continue to wear hearing protection devices and continue to wear them properly and consistently. And I can always get fit with a hearing aid. So hearing aid is not an alternative to normal hearing. So therefore, it's important to protect your hearing. So these are just some quick tips, additional tips to protect your hearing. Unfortunately, we live in a loud world with a lot of loud noises, and there are a variety of these loud noises. But the good news is there are a lot of different options and ways we can protect your hearing from these loud noises. So again, just know which noises cause damage, avoiding those environments if possible, if not, wearing the appropriate hearing protection. Being proactive is also very important. So it's important to get a baseline hearing test so you can track your hearing over time. That way, if there's a change in your hearing, we can prevent further hearing loss by recommending the appropriate hearing protection. And if you also have a hearing loss, we can schedule an appointment with the appropriate hearing healthcare provider to address some of the different options, such as hearing aids. We'll address the benefits, the lifestyle, and the appropriate hearing loss, which leads us into our next topic.
Right, so we're also going to talk about how digital hearing aids work today. So a hearing aid is supposed to electronically amplify sounds. So soft sounds will be audible and loud sounds will be loud, but they won't be uncomfortably loud. A hearing aid will increase your sound awareness ability and your localization abilities, and that just means your ability to tell which direction the sound is coming from. A hearing aid can also increase your ability to understand speech, and it will improve quality of life, but as Michael said, it's not going to restore your hearing to normal because hearing loss is permanent. So these are the hearing aids you might think of when you think of hearing aids. These are probably the hearing aids that maybe your grandmother used to wear. They were analog. They only made sounds louder. Sound went in and it came out louder. And it amplified all sounds equally, including noise. But now we have digital hearing aids. And digital hearing aids are actually able to modify a sound and make it better before making it louder. So it allows audiologists to really fine-tune the hearing aid for the patient's hearing loss and for their specific needs. Because you can program for different situations, like a quiet situation or a noisy situation. So there are 5 parts to every digital hearing aid. It's going to have a microphone, a receiver, an amplifier, a battery, and a microchip. So the microphone is just going to pick up the sounds in your environment and send it to the microchip for processing. The microchip is where the sound is analyzed and modified and made better and enhanced. It can automatically adjust for feedback noise. It can bring down some background noise. It can bring down wind noise. And it can also allow your hearing aids to pair with other devices and Bluetooth devices. So the amplifier in your hearing aid is just going to take that sound and make it louder. And the receiver is going to take that louder sound and send it into your ear. And the battery is responsible for powering this little device to do all these functions. Batteries are traditionally disposable. They usually come in like a little small pack like this. They come in 4 different sizes. And that just depends on the size of the hearing aid and the severity of the hearing loss. But some manufacturers actually offer rechargeable hearing aids now, so you would not even have to change the battery. You would just plug them into the charger. And we're going to actually pass around some hearing aids for you guys to take a look at. And so this is just a nice photo to show how the hearing aid works all in one piece. And the last piece of the puzzle, as you can see, is the brain. As Kelly was saying earlier, that is where the sound is interpreted and interpreted as speech.
So now that April's told us a little bit about the background of hearing aids, I'm just going to go into a little bit more about what to do when you find you have a hearing loss and you need to shop for a hearing aid. So like April was saying, hearing aids are pretty advanced technology today. They are FDA approved for the treatment of all types and all degrees of hearing loss. They're customizable to your own ear. They come in a wide range of styles, a lot of them seen here. So more custom in the ear products and then more behind the ear. And all of the hearing aids today, we're passing around some samples, are pretty discreet. A lot of people like to pick a skin color or a hair color for it to blend in, but they're all very small today, nothing like the hearing aids April was talking about that your grandmother used to wear. So hearing aids, along with that digital technology, have a lot of new features. They have improved feedback suppression, so your hearing aids won't be whistling at you. They have improved performance in background noise, so let's say you're at a noisy restaurant with your wife or your husband, and they're talking directly in front of you. It helps you to hear their speech louder than the noise behind you. Hearing aids, like April was saying, also do pair to smartphones today, so you can use different apps to control the volume and the programs on your hearing aids. And you can also stream phone calls directly into your hearing aids, phone calls and music from your phones. So while you're shopping, you might also run into PSAPs, which are personal sound amplification products. So these are over-the-counter options, but they're not hearing aids. They don't have all of the functions that I was just talking about. They have limited programming. These are the ones you might find these in like a CVS store or online. These are not customized to your own ears. These are more like an earplug that you would buy in the store and just put them directly into your ears. So PSAPs, they just amplify all sounds equally, kind of like an analog hearing aid. They don't have those customizable options like hearing aids do. So where can you buy a hearing aid? There are so many places that you can go today. Costco, big stores like that, Sam's Club as well. Places like Miracle Ear sell hearing aids and even online. But I will caution you that even though these places you might find the best bargain or you might get the best bang for your buck, they don't necessarily have the best services. They don't have the best follow-up care for you. So even though you might be spending a little bit less on your hearing aid, you're not getting the standard of care that we would recommend. So when either first-time users or returning users experience hearing aid users, our recommendation is really to go to an audiologist to get your hearing aids. So audiologists go through 8 years of training post-high school. They have a doctoral level degree, unlike a hearing aid dispenser, where they don't really have regulated certifications and those kind of things. Audiologists, they will test your hearing, they will send you for follow-up medical care at an ENT or a physician if you have any type of contraindications, like impacted earwax or anything like that before they fit you. They properly know how to fit all types of hearing losses, and then they'll just follow up with you with more exact programming and more options that you would have if you just buy your hearing aid online and put it on your ears. So the audiologist really has that expertise. They have over 1,000 hours of clinical practice, and they've seen pretty much every type of hearing loss before they've seen you. So just a few additional tips when looking for a hearing aid. The first is just to check your insurance coverage. So insurance coverage for hearing aids, unfortunately, it varies widely between different insurances, but if you do have any type of insurance coverage, it's good because hearing aids can be an expense. The second is to take advantage of the trial period. So Maryland law requires there to be a 30-day trial period before you take your hearing aids home with you. So I would just recommend going out, wearing them all day, writing down what you like, what you don't like, bringing those to the audiologist so that they can program them specifically how you like them, and that you're getting use of them. We don't want an ITD hearing aid, which means in the drawer. We don't want you to take them, put them in the drawer, and never think about them again. And then the third is just to buy only what you need. So hearing aids come in a wide range of technology levels, from entry level to more premium technology. And obviously, as you go up in technology level, they do get better. The technology is better, the processing is better. But if you can only afford an entry or a mid-level hearing aid, definitely go with that first, because giving any type of stimulation to those sensory cells, to your brain, that's better than doing nothing at all. So that's it for us. If you guys have any questions, we're open for questions.
Anybody have any questions?
Very thorough.
I have a question for somebody that couldn't be here. You wanted to know what you can do about tinnitus. Is it tinnitus?
Yeah, tomato, tinnitus.
So I'll field this question. So
Do you mind
hearing-
standing up?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you mind getting in front of the camera? So tinnitus is really common. So one of the easiest treatments, and I say most cost-effective, is just bringing sound into the environment. So like the fan on the projector would really help drown out the tinnitus. At night, white noise machines, which I have in my kids' bedrooms, they're very cheap, inexpensive ways just to get the ringing to calm down. If there's also a hearing loss, hearing aids actually really help. So hearing aids alone, and sometimes the hearing aids even have programs in them that will play the noise that we were talking about or music to help drown out the sound of tinnitus. And there's even additional things beyond that. If the tinnitus is really severe and those two options aren't helping, there are other ways to get the brain to sort of forget about the sound. So it's not a treatment, there's not a pill, there's not a surgery, but there's a way for us to train the brain that this is not an important sound anymore. So there are a lot of options. Audiologists would do that treatment side of things, yes.
What causes the crystals to misalign in your ear? Because I do have that problem.
Yes, so that is a vestibular, so that's the other part of the ear that we haven't talked about. And so it could be a range of things. Sometimes just as you age, there's like webbing over them in your balance system that's supposed to keep what I call the rocks in place. And if that webbing gets loose, then they can get loose and misplaced and sort of lost. So the audiologist puts them back, and hopefully they stay where they're supposed to. Head injury or any sort of things that shook up your head can also do that, but that's relatively common, and the good news is that we can get them where they should be. Getting them to stay is something else that we can do too, but yes. Other questions? So we have hearing protection if you want to take some of these, if you're like mowing your lawn or going to a concert this weekend. We are happy for you to take some of these disposable ones.